Hi, this is Sweet June. How's everybody doing today? Finally, the long-awaited food stamp video I keep telling you guys that I was going to do. Finally, I'm able to do it. Um, I'm going to provide you, I'm going to dispel some common food stamp myths. And I'm going to give you some interesting facts on the food stamp program because there's a lot of people that are operating in ignorance about food stamps. And I want to dispel some of the myths, the common myths that they have about food stamps. Particularly if you're on my channel and you watching my channel, you're gonna get some cold hard facts. I'm gonna make sure that when you watching my channel, that you're not gonna be ignorant. Okay, I'm gonna make sure that when you're watching my channel, you're gonna learn some things. I want to educate you guys, and you're gonna learn some things, so you won't be ignorant, and you'll have the facts. So you're gonna get some facts when you watch my channel. So I compiled a little research. I did a little research, looked up some information so I can know what I'm talking about. And so I'm going to talk about common food stamp myths. Hopefully after you watch my video, you'll be a little bit more enlightened and less ignorant about the food stamp program. Number one, the amount of food stamps is based on gross income and family size. Now, when someone goes to apply for food stamps, what they do is they ask for your pay stubs, bank statements. They're gonna want pay stubs and bank statements, and they're gonna want proof of how much rent you're paying, whether you're buying or if you're paying a mortgage or whether you're renting. They're gonna want proof of how much you're paying for your shelter costs, and they want to know how much you're paying for your utilities. That is some of the information that they're going to want from you. Now, they're going to take whatever it is that you're making, and they're going to take your family size into consideration. So if there's two in your family, they're going to base your food stamps off of what you're making versus your family size. And that's what they are going to use to determine how much food stamps you're going to get per month. If you got three people in your family, they're going to take that, your income, of how much you make, of how much you got coming in, versus how many people that you have in your family. And I don't know, they use some type of scale. They use some type of scale to go by. I'm imagining they probably do. And that is in your family size and your income is what is going to determine the amount of food stamps you get per month. So for everybody, that's a different amount. If you're not working, then you're obviously going to get more than someone that is working. If you're working and you're a single parent and you have one or two or more kids, they're going to take your income, whatever it is that you're making, and then compare, go by your family size. You got two or three or four in your family, then that's what is going to be used to determine how much food stamps you get per month. So if you get $200 a month in food stamps, that's for the whole month. People don't get food stamps weekly, they get them monthly. And it's based on family size and income. So for everybody, that's different, depending on how much you make in your family size. So, and they go by your gross income. They don't go by what you bring home. They go by your gross, because the reason why they go by your gross income is when you get your taxes. Most people, when they have children, they get what they call head of household, and what is that other one they have you get when you have kids? Um, you get the child care credit, and you get the head of household credit when you're a single parent and you have children, and when you're married you have children. That's what you get. So when you get that at the end of the year, they don't penalize you for that. That's they don't ask you about your taxes because they take your gross amount of income in account when they're calculating how much food stamps you get. So at the end of the year, when you get those taxes, they don't penalize you for that. That's the reason why they do that. So when you go to the store and you see people with large single mothers, particularly single mothers with children, with a big old cart full of groceries. I've been there many times. Don't automatically assume it's because that they're balling on food stamps. They're probably buying their food for the month. That big cart of groceries is probably their food for the whole month. 9 times out of 10. I mean, there was many times where I went to the store and I had a cart full of groceries, and one would assume that, well, food stamps, that when you see that, you think their people are balling on food stamps, but really, that's their monthly allotment. They're basically spending their monthly allotment on, and they're probably doing it in 1 or 2 trips. I know when I used to get food stamps, I would go, depending on how much food stamps I got, I would go in 1 or 2 trips per month. And that was my monthly allotment. So when you see someone with a mother, particularly a single mother, and she has a cart full of groceries and she has food stamps, don't automatically assume that she's balling on food stamps. That's her monthly allotment because you only get them once a month. And it's based on your family size and income. If you only getting $200 a month, then that's what you get for the whole month. So whatever it is that you get from working, you have to supplement that with your work income. So that's what it's based on. Okay. So number 2, a lot of people on food stamps work. More than half of people on the SNAP program work. I looked that up on www.cbpp.org. Uh, More than half of people. That was an important stat that I wanted to look up. More than half uh, of people on the SNAP program work. So most people that are on food stamps, that receive food stamps, they are working. They are working. More, it says here, more than half of people that are on the SNAP program do work. They do work. Many years, I got food stamps and I was working while I was getting them. So don't automatically assume that when you see somebody in the store buying groceries and they have a food stamp card, don't automatically assume that they don't work. They're sitting up on a system. 9 times out of 10, they are working, and they need those food stamps because they're not going to give them to you if they feel like you don't need them. They go within certain guidelines, and if you don't meet those guidelines, then you don't qualify for food stamps. You're not going to get them. So if a person has a food stamp card, it's because their income was low enough for them to qualify to get the food stamps. Because there is a such thing as working poor. You can still be working and still be poor. Number 3, just as many whites, if not more, are on food stamps as well as other races are on food stamps. Not just black women. Black women are not the only recipients of food stamps. I've heard a lot of people a lot of YouTubers, I listen to some of the other people on here saying that, acting as if, or making the suggestion that black women are the only recipients of food stamps. There are other races of people, particularly, I got the stats on that. As of February 2008, 2008, I'm sorry. As of February 2018, out of 43 million SNAP recipients, 36.2% are white, 25.6% are black, 17.2% are Hispanic, and the other percentage are other, which means other races of people. So um, you got out of that 46 million of people that are on the SNAP program, 36.2% people are white. 25% people are black. So there's more white people. Statistically, there are more white people that receive food stamps than black people. And, it's not rocket science. There are more white people in this country than there are black people. Black people, we only represent 13% of the population. Now, some may argue that because we only represent 13% of the population, the percentage of the 25% of black people that are on them is a high percentage based on the percentage of black people that are in this country. Some argue that. They say that, okay, well, that percentage of black people that are on food stamps is high, considering how many black people are in this country. That's what some argue. But the jury is still out on that one. So, not people are on food stamps are not just black women. Black women are not the only people that are receiving food stamps. Okay, there's a lot of white females that single moms that receive them as well. Okay, so I'm dispelling that myth. Number 4, it's getting harder to get food stamps. Most states, 21 states, including Michigan, have work requirements to receive food stamps. Michigan just passed a law here just recently, just a few months ago. They just passed a law that says that you have to be working 20 hours a week to receive food stamps. I thought that they always had that rule because I've always worked and got. There was a short period of time where I didn't work and I received them, but most majority of the time when I received food stamps, I was working. I thought you had to be working anyway to get them. But I didn't know that you didn't have to be working to receive food stamps, or I forgot, or whatever the situation was. However, 21 states, 22 states, including Michigan, have work requirements to get food stamps. You have to be doing some type of either volunteer work or clocking in on somebody's job. You have to be working at least 20 hours a week to receive food stamps. Okay, so more states are starting to adopt this policy that you have to be working, you have to be willing to go either do volunteer work or clocking in on someone's job, to receive food stamps. Okay, so more states are adopting work policies in order for people to receive food stamps. So, Michigan, for example, because I live here in Michigan, in order for you to receive food stamps, you're going to have to be doing some type of work. Okay, so that's going to dispel a myth of people just sitting around not working and collecting benefits. And Michigan has what you call, I've explained in one of my other videos, or the Section 8 video, I explained in the Section 8 video that, I think I explained it in that video, that Michigan has, yeah, I did. Has what they call a work first. They've had that since the mid 90s. It's called the work first program, which means that in order to qualify for any type of, if you want to even to qualify for cash assistance, it's hard to get cash assistance here in Michigan. In order to qualify for cash assistance, you have to, if you're unemployed, you have to agree to some type of work training. You have to go down to the work to the office here, the unemployment, they call it the unemployment office, and you have to take some type of work training. They help you with your resume, they help you with job searches, and you have to document your job search. You have to put in applications to so many places, and you have to prove that you did that. Now, some get around that. I'm gonna be honest. Some people get around that. Some people have clever ways of getting around that. But that's what you have to do in order to qualify for cash assistance here. And now they've adopted the policy where you have to be working 20 hours a week to qualify for food stamps. Okay, so nobody here in Michigan are going to be just sitting on food stamps. Okay, unless you're either elderly or you're disabled, that is the only way you're going to be not working and receiving food stamps here in the state of Michigan. Everybody else got to be working. Okay, so that dispels that myth. Um, Number 5, in a lot of states, I just talked about that. In a lot of states, you must be working to receive food stamps. Um, Number 6, nobody is balling on food stamps unless they are committing fraud. And I got an interesting stat on that. Um, no, I didn't get the stat. The stat. Oh, yes, I did. Um, the food stamp fraud is very low. That was actually number 10. 0.9% government fraud. That's all there is. 0.9% government fraud. That's all there is. And um, nobody is balling on food stamps. This misconception that this perception that people that are getting food stamps are, driving around in Cadillacs and or whatever, wearing all these fancy clothes. I promise you that nobody is balling on food stamps. I just explained to you in the beginning of the video that your amount of food stamps is based on your income and your family size. I know because I used to get food stamps. And they're only gonna before they cut me off, I was only getting like 70 something dollars a month before they cut me off. So it's based on your family size and your income. And if you go to the store and you see somebody buying, you see somebody with a cart full of groceries, that's their monthly allotment. That's what they're getting for the whole month. Okay, you only get food stamps once a month, and that's what they're getting for the whole month. And they got to make that little 200 or 300 or $400 or whatever the amount they're getting. They got to make that money stretch. You got to make them stamps stretch throughout the whole month. Or if you buy all your food in one trip, you got to make that food stretch throughout the whole month. That's your monthly allotment. So it may appear that they're getting all these food stamps and they're balling out of control, but you have to understand that's their monthly allotment. That's for the whole month. Okay. Most people spend, I don't know, $200 a week on groceries. But if you're only getting $200 a month in food stamps, that's your monthly allotment. And then what if you need an additional food on top of that, that's got to come out your pocket. That's got to come out of your paycheck. So nobody is balling out of control on food stamps. If they're working, if they're working and they're receiving food stamps, then they're buying clothes and stuff like that with extra money that they may have. And everybody, single mothers get the earned income tax credit, child care credit. They get that at the end of the year, so they have the money to go out and buy new clothes or whatever the situation is like that. So if you see them in new clothes, they might have got them new clothes from their tax money or whatever. Okay. So nobody is balling. I promise you, nobody is balling out of control on the food stamp program. And like I said, the fraud is 0.9%. And that fraud is committed by people that work in the system. Most of that government fraud, food stamp fraud or whatever, is committed by people, caseworkers, intake workers that work at the human services building that process the food stamp app and welfare applications. Most of the fraud is committed by those people because, well, they know the system. They know how to work the system. They caught this one lady. She was a caseworker, and she had food stamp cases in every state. She had made up. She had Social Security. I guess she had got access to Social Security cards, and she had it. She had it set up real nice, and she had it set up to where she was getting food stamps in different states under different aliases. And she did that for years, and they finally caught up with her. It was a caseworker. I forget where she was from, but yeah, it was a caseworker that was doing that. So most of your fraud is committed by people that work in the system, you know. So nobody is balling out of control on food stamps. Let's get that straight. Um, Number 7, not everybody on food stamps are lazy. Like I said, people in poverty are some of the hardest working people in this country. People that are in poverty are some of the hardest working people in this country. If you go to your stores, your dollar stores, any retail store, a lot of those people are receiving food stamps because the pay is very low. Your gas stations, hotels, and all those places like that, those people are receiving food stamps in most cases because those are very low paying jobs. If they have children, they are receiving food stamps. So in most cases, those people are working very hard. Okay, because I know that I worked those different types of jobs and I worked very hard on those jobs. I worked very hard, but I was still poor because I wasn't making a lot of money. But I've worked very hard over the years. Okay, so poor people, that people in poverty, are some of the hardest people, working people out there. So this perception that people that are receiving food stamps, I just told you that more than half of SNAP recipients are working. So this perception that that are on food stamps are lazy, no, they're not lazy. Most people that receive food stamps are not lazy. They're very hard working. But unfortunately, they're still poor because wages are very low. So let's get that straight right there. Number 8, anybody can end up on food stamps. Anybody. It's like what I talked about in my Section 8 video. If you haven't already seen it, go check it out. Anybody can find themselves on food stamps. Like I said, the big economy crash back in 2008. A lot of people that wasn't on the food stamp program before found themselves having to, for the first time in their lives, having to apply for food stamps. Okay, and the amount of people that were on food stamps has skyrocketed. It was at an all-time high because you had people that was getting on food stamps that had never been on food stamps, but people were losing their jobs and things like that, and they needed the program. Okay, so we never know what's going to happen to us. It could be a job loss, or I know there was times where, um, well, I always been was blessed enough to be able to work pretty consistently. But I've had various different incomes on different jobs. Some jobs I made a little bit more than others. Some jobs I made a little bit less. Okay, so anything can happen to where you might have to go down and qualify for food stamps. Anybody could wind up on the food stamp program. So it's not a loving thing to do to judge someone that's getting food stamps because you never know what situation that you're going to wind up in to where you might need the food stamp program. And that's what it's for. It's there for you if you need it. Should people be trying to work hard to get off of it? Yes, most definitely. People should be that should be a people's number one goal is to become self-sufficient and try to get off of the food stamp program. That should always be anybody's goal. That was my goal. That should be anybody's goal is to work really hard to try to get off of it because they be too much in your business. I'm very relieved that I don't have to worry about reporting this and reporting that, getting together pay stubs and all that stuff and running, and sometimes you go down there and you submit all the information and then a month later they turn around and tell you need to do it again. Well, I just submitted it, then you got to go through all this craziness again. It's ridiculous. So it's, they be in your business a lot. It's a pain in the butt. But if you need it, that's what you got to go through. So never, never look down on anybody. We are to never look down on anybody that are less fortunate, that receive food stamps or whatever, because the way this country is going, we don't never know what's going to happen. And we might wind up needing the program ourselves. So um, anybody can wind up in that situation. So it's not good to judge people. It's not a loving thing to do. Um, And I talked about the number 10. Number 9. Not all tax dollars are spent on food stamps. Um, as of 2017, SNAP cost the federal government $68 billion. That is less than 2% of the federal budget. So, and that's according to ADT Fourth World USA. Okay. So less than 68 billion in 2017. That's less than 2% of the federal budget. So less than 2% of the federal budget is spent on the food stamp program. Okay. So this theory that all of your tax dollars are going to people that are on food stamps is not true. Your tax dollars are going in various different places. They go to aid the war effort. They go to there's a lot of government waste. You have to do your research. There's a lot of government waste. There's government programs in place right now that's not even necessary for the government to even be running these programs. So there is a lot of governmental waste. And a certain amount of your tax dollars are used to subsidize government workers, people in Congress or whatever, the President of the United States. It's used to supplement their lifestyle, take trips and things like that. And a lot of those people up there are overpaid, you know. And, they have a such thing as called corporate welfare. So a lot of your tax dollars, you would be surprised at how much your tax dollars are spent on government waste. You would be surprised. You'd be really surprised. So money's only, it says there, less than 2% of the federal budget goes towards the food stamp program. Okay? So not all of your tax dollars is going to people that are on food stamps. Okay? So let's take that myth dispelled right there. So, and I already basically said that there's only 9% of government fraud. Okay, so there's not a whole lot of government fraud or people defrauding the system or anything like that. Okay, so I mean, yeah, do people sell food stamps? Yeah, that's a form of fraud. There are a lot of people that do sell food stamps. You know, be kind of hard for them to investigate that. Very difficult for them to investigate that. So, but yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. That's what I wanted to make very clear and dispel those common food stamp myths, because people are just operating in ignorance. When they talk about, well, I went to the store and I seen somebody, they get upset because you know they're they may not have a whole lot of money for food, and then they go to the store and see somebody with this big old cart full of groceries that's receiving food stamps, but you have to understand that's their monthly allotment. Okay, that's their monthly allotment. That's what they get for the whole month. And after that's gone, they got to go in their pocket. Okay, so it's just a lot of ignorance out there when it comes to food stamps. A lot of people be operating in ignorance. And if you're watching my channel, you are not going to operate in ignorance. I'm going to give you the facts. I'm going to let you know the real tea, and I'm going to let you know what's really up on these different things. So when you watching my channel, you are not going to operate in ignorance. You're going to know the facts. Okay. So with that being said, I hope I dispelled some myths, some misconception and myths that you might have had in your mind about food stamps. Hit me up in the comments section. Let me know what your opinions are. Let me know what your thoughts are. Be nice. Be nice. Be respectful. Express your opinion without insults or whatever. You know the protocol. Be sure to please subscribe. If you're new to my channel, make sure you subscribe. Hit that like button and share my videos. And hit the notification bell so every time I do a video, it will pop up on your phone or whatever. So that's important that you hit that notification bell. Now, stay tuned. I have some more interesting video topics coming up. Peace and love. This is Sweet Jim.